all for taking time out of your schedule to have a chat. I caught Burning Season after Jonas reached out, and I think it wasn't quite, I don't know what I was expecting, but it wasn't what I was expecting, if that makes any sort of sense at all. I guess, the first question would be, how did this idea come, Jonas, and what was it for you, Sean and Sarah, that made you want to get involved with this project?
I was writing another script with my co-writer Diana Francis, and we couldn't quite find it, and so we were really stuck. And she came into one of our writing sessions, and she said, "I have a crazy idea. It's totally different than what we were working on. But what about a love story told backwards that begins with the end and ends with the beginning?" Over several chapters, and we just got really excited about that notion and kind of designed it from the concept. So we knew we wanted to do a story about a relationship. We knew we wanted to do a story about memory and secrets. And so it started with that, and we worked backwards from there. And we didn't really have our ending for a long time. We had a subtle ending. And at one point during the process, probably 2 years before we ended up shooting the movie, I showed the script to my friend Sean Garrity, and that's him there waving. And I said, "What do you think?" And he said, "Oh, I really like the story. I really love. There's something really great here." But he felt very strongly that it needed a powerhouse ending, something that explained the psychology between why these characters shouldn't be together or can't be together. And ultimately, years later, when I brought the script to him to direct, he was very excited because he finally got to enforce his idea, and he was right. And I would say once he got his teeth into it and pitched us on this ending, and we got to develop it, that's when the movie really kind of took a life and found its way to what you've seen, what you just watched.
I just read the script and was like, hell yeah. I had a really great chemistry read audition with the two of these chaps, and it was so much fun. It really felt like a work session. It felt kind of like, let's play, let's dig in here, let's see what there's, like a 45-minute Zoom extravaganza. It was just really fun. I had met Jonas a couple of years before at the Whistler Film Festival. We were speaking on a panel together, and we just kind of went like, "See you down the road, my friend," and it was just so amazing that this was the first film that we got to work together on, because not every script that crosses the desk goes to where this script goes. And I just read it and thought, well, there it all is. And was so happy that I got to jump on board.
Yeah. And for you, Sean, what was it about, this story when you first sort of heard about it that made you want to direct it?
I mean, there was a lot of things. Jonas came to me and asked me to direct it very close to the shoot. And so a lot of it was just joining the team and working with Jonas on another movie. We just finished a movie called The End of Sex, which played, I think, last year at Glasgow. So that was great. But I have to tell you that I was terrified by it, actually, because I did recognize that, I'm, as a director, I'm very, very focused on pace and pacing and keeping the audience engaged, and making a film something that you kind of can't stop watching. There's a temporal nature to it that, especially in the click bazillion channels of the internet era, I feel like you got to keep people interested. And of course, the main mechanism that stories have for that is what happens next. And so when you chuck that out the window, I was like, wow, how are we gonna? So, I mean, I was really lucky that Jonas and the rest of the team was open to me bringing a different vision of what that might be and how that might work. And it was very exciting at the beginning that, Jonas and I would drive up to the location to scout where we were going to shoot. And on the car ride up and down, we were rewriting the script in the car, taking turns at the wheel while each one of us wrote things and pitched things to the other one. And that was tremendously exciting, and a tremendously exciting way to work.
So obviously the film is told in reverse. Was it shot as is seen in the film? Because it almost feels like it was shot the other way around, if that makes sense.
Oh, that's a astute observation. Yeah, I went out of my way to make life difficult for my assistant directors and my producers by asking them to schedule the shoot by starting at chapter 1 and then shooting chapter 2 and then shooting chapter 3. And so that is in fact how we shot it. And there were a bunch of reasons for that, but centered on actor process and trying to make it feel organic for the actors and to allow them to contribute and collaborate in an organic way.
And given the nature of the plot, it's about this couple who have this affair that spans many years. That means that obviously there's a lot of scenes of intimacy. How did you sort of all work together to sort of create a safe space? Because I think it's very important in these types of stories that you have that trust built up between cast and crew.
We had a great intimacy coordinator who spoke to both of us before we even got to set. Things are very specific now in terms of like, I think everything is sort of written down, what people will or won't do. I think for myself personally, Jonas is just the easiest scene partner. He's so fun to work with. I think we're both very silly. Like we've kind of learned about each other. Like we're both very kind of muppety and weirdos, so I think it was very easy. Like I think I had a great time whenever we were talking earlier as well about how great it is to approach intimacy scenes from a place of story, and Jonas was talking about the importance of that. And so for myself, I just really enjoyed letting those scenes be about where are these characters in the evolution, devolution, whatever, just allowing them to be just allowing each scene to really dig into where they're at with each other and where they're at in their lives and with their other relationships, certainly makes those scenes more accessible to me, I would say.
Yeah, like a cardinal rule for screenwriters is, every scene in your movie should do two things. Ideally, it should advance the story and reveal character. And I think, sex scenes or scenes of intimacy don't often do either of those things. In the case of this movie, those scenes are not in here for titillation. They're in the movie because each time these characters crash together, you're learning more about them, and you're moving the story forward or backwards in our case. And so we really looked at those scenes as being functional on a number of levels. And so I think that made them kind of juicier for us.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I think you see in some of them, especially the intimacy scene, and I think it's in chapter 5 in the boathouse, a real sense of how this relationship is an addiction. The way that they play against each other in the sex scene. It's not the words that they say. It's absolutely in the nuance of the performance. And so obviously that was key for me as well. And I spoke to both these guys about it. And we had an excellent intimacy coordinator. She was so good. I would say one of the best intimacy coordinators I've ever worked with. The only weird thing about intimacy coordinators for me is always I like to go into a scene as a director with kind of a vague idea of how I want it to feel, and then I work with my actors on the floor and we try and chase that feeling and make it feel that way based on what they're bringing and what the weather is like and what they had for breakfast. But when you work with an intimacy coordinator, you have to sit down and say, here's exactly what the scene will be, and here's exactly what we will see, and here's exactly what every shot is going to be, because that's how intimacy coordinators work, and it's a great thing. The actors come in with absolute comfort that they know what's going to go down, and that nothing outside of that is going to go down, and it allows them to play the characters in the story. But for me, it's a learning process to work that way because it's not the way that I work. And so I have to do a weird pre-planning thing that I haven't done since I was a film student.
And I think one of the things I really liked is the casting of the younger halves of Elena and JB. They felt very much like they could have been younger versions of yourselves. And there's a nice continuity, I think, through the performances. Did you guys have any interaction with them to sort of like say like this is how we're playing this character so that it felt organic like it does?
we hung out with them a little bit.
Mhm.
You know, so but it's kind of a, you know, Sean can speak more to this. It was sort of a magical coincidence, what you're pointing at, because Sean and I butted heads on this as the producer of the movie. You know, I empower Sean to cast the movie. He gets to cast the movie. I have a voice. Sometimes it's, you know, listened to, sometimes maybe not so much. But he gets to cast the movie, and he said right out of the gates, I don't care if the actors look anything like you and Sarah. I'm casting the best actors for these parts. And I was, what? How could you do that? You're going to ruin our movie. They have to look like us. They have to have the same eye color. We'll have to get contact lenses. And he said, quiet, Chernick, go away. Go do your actorly things. And he ended up casting the actors that he felt were the best for the movie. Coincidentally, people seem to feel that they match energetically and maybe physically, Sarah and I, in ways that Sean could not have been less concerned about.
And it was funny. I don't know if you remember, Jonas, we had a thing where we were like, you were like, what if the eye color is different? And I'm like, it happens all the time in movies. And you're like, no, it wasn't. And we both went to IMDb and started looking up films where, in fact, the younger version of the actor had a different eye color, and, you know, nobody noticed and nobody cared. We had this long discussion about, do you cast just the best actor, or do you cast for appearance? And ultimately, it was a moot point, because the best actors did, in fact, look a lot like Jonas and Sarah, and they came to set a number of days before we shot that prologue last, and they came to set a number of days to watch Jonas and Sarah doing their thing. And I think they took a lot away from that, because I certainly felt that they were channeling both those actors when they were performing them as kids, and had a really great sense, both of them, about not only about what the characters were, but what the role of that chapter in the film was. There were a couple of improvised scenes where, like, Natalie, I remember, specifically brought up some stuff, you know, the line, I wish you were dead. That was, you get the idea that she understands not only the character and the story, but how that chapter plays in the story, and how it's meant to encode a certain sense of, you know, what carries forward in the other characters psychologically. Really smart actors.
Yeah. And so very quickly, my final question for you guys would be, you know, this is going to be showing at Glasgow. Why should people take a chance on this film? What's this film going to give them that some of the others might not?
Sex, lots and lots of sex. Right, everybody? Everybody likes sex. No, it's look, I would say, if you're into, it's an exciting movie. It's entertaining, it's dramatic, it's passionate, it's funny. But there's something about the way that we tell the story is unique, and that we start at the end and we go backwards, and we're building up to the beginning. And I feel like, for me as an audience member, when I'm looking at what am I going to pick at the festival, that would be an enticing element. It's like, let's see how that's done, and what kind of experience that provides me as a film goer.
Love relationship dramas all the time, and I also love watching actors have fun. Like, I can tell when I'm watching actors enjoy themselves, and I think every actor in this film, when I watch it, I go, everybody's having a great time.
Yeah, absolutely. The performance of I think all the actors in the film is just it's just delicious to watch. And, you know, I think the audience relates to story in a very different way when the story is going backwards. We're asking the audience to step into a very different position, and in a way almost judge choices that characters make, knowing, as the audience will, what the consequences of those choices will be before the choice is made. It's a really interesting position to be in as an audience, and one that you might not have at other films, unless, is there another backwards film at the festival? I don't know. Maybe there's.
No, we are the only backwards film.
All right, there you go.
At the Glasgow Film Festival.
Cool. Well, I wish you guys the best of luck with the screening. I'm sure it's going to go down great.
Thanks, Kat. Lovely talking to you.